Good afternoon, everybody. So lovely to have you with us back here today. My name's Gemma van Houderen. I'm the Director of the Statistics Division, and a very warm welcome to the third and final session of our Regional Collaboration Workshop on navigating policy with data to leave no one behind. Today's session is going to be a fairly dynamic, if you like, very interactive session again, a little bit like the second session. And today we're going to hear primarily from our countries, primarily from you, about where the biggest challenges in your statistical systems are occurring and what changes it is that you would like to see occur as a result of working with us at the UN and with partners including Paris 21 and ADB to improve your statistical systems. I haven't prepared any opening slides here this morning, so let me just step through a little bit about how the day might proceed. With session 1 and 2, we had, oh yeah, thanks very much, Goy. If we just move to today's agenda, that would be wonderful. So on days, last Monday, we were joined by you to give an overview of some tools that are available from development partners for strengthening various aspects of your statistical systems. And we heard from development partners, ourselves here at ESCAP, Paris 21, UNECE, and the Asian Development Bank about the availability of these tools. And we heard from many countries about their experiences in using these tools and working with development partners on the application of those tools. Then on day 2, second session last Tuesday, we did a little bit of a sprint type session with the development partners to really explain these tools in greater detail and to explain various aspects and answer questions that you had about the technical assistance that is available. We then invited countries to fill in a very simple questionnaire about what sort of support or what sort of technical assistance could be of value to you. And I really do want to appreciate all of you who filled that form in. We received 26 responses, which was really great. And the responses were very informative for telling us which parts of our commitments to strengthen our statistical systems need some assistance, but most importantly, why that assistance could be valuable and what change you would like to see as a result of that assistance. And we've invited some of you, and we've invited our partners, Paris 21, OECD, Paris 21, ADB and ECE to assist us today with 3 panels. A lot of the inputs from your responses were in these 3 broad areas. The first one was around what we broadly called national data ecosystems. So this is very much about getting access to administrative data sharing, being able to integrate data, set up integrated data infrastructure, set up data catalogues, and in particular the particular requirements around legislation and where the legislation needs to be changed in order to facilitate that. The second broad area of support, again, was around integrated indicator and monitoring systems in a very broad sense. And here the word indicator and monitoring systems was like indicator systems like the SDGs, but it's also national indicator systems that might be in place in your country for monitoring other policies like transport policies, women's economic empowerment policies, and the importance of these being integrated. So where where these indicator frameworks do or don't exist, are they monitoring and supporting policies that are of priority and importance to your government? And then the third area, which we've called statistical and data literacy, this was very much more around the literacy of policymakers and the literacy of decision makers in your country to understand official statistics, to understand the importance of the National Statistics Office. And we heard from several countries on Monday and Tuesday about the importance of connecting to ministers. So this area of statistical data literacy is less about communication and presentation of results. It's more about literacy of our policymakers and understanding the role that we play as statisticians and your office in your statistical system. So we've convened these three panels and we've invited a few countries to speak at these panels, but we also encourage all of you to contribute to these three discussions as well, and we have certainly allowed some time for each of those. After these three panel sessions, I'll then move into a closing and next steps and step you through where what the planning is for what the take-home messages from today, the three sessions and the workshop is, and what we as ESCAP in conjunction with ECE, Paris 21 and ADB will do next steps. I really do. So my second introductory remark here this morning is to really encourage you, as we did in the second session, to please put your hand up, raise any questions, use the chat box. A reminder across the top of the screen there on MS Teams, the third icon along where there's a little smiley face with a hand raised. There you can put your hand up at any time you have a question. Please also use the chat box because even though we're in this online format, we really are trying to be as interactive with you as possible, and to really hear from you what it is that is of importance to you and why. So before moving on to our first panel, let me just check if there's any questions or any comments in the box, in the chat box. I think we seem to be all okay. And I just really encourage you, if you do have any questions at any time of each other or of our development partners, please do just raise your hand or put something in the chat box at any time. So on that note, I might hand over then to our very first facilitator, who is Stephen Vale, which many of you know works for the European Commission of Europe, or the Economic Commission of Europe. Steve, let me hand over to you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Gemma, and hello, everybody. Welcome to this session. So in this first part of the meeting, we're going to be talking about national data ecosystems and improving data sharing and data use for official statistics, including through legislation. And colleagues in ESCAP have invited 4 of you to speak on this based on your responses to the questionnaire that you kindly filled in after the last sessions. So what we're going to do in this session is first have a look at the issues in your countries. So we're going to ask about the issues that you face with regard to data sharing and data use. And then in the second part, later on, we're going to start looking at some of the solutions. So the sort of changes that you would need to see happen to face those issues. So the first question then is, what issue are you facing in your countries with regard to data sharing and data use? And we'd like to, first of all, ask Mr. Shakur Jamshedi from Afghanistan to explain a little bit about the issues that you have in your country. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Shakur Jamshedi from Afghanistan, NSU. So thank you, thanks all, especially the organizer and the participants to this valuable workshops. So as you may aware, in the Afghanistan situation, the main issue, unfortunately, here is the security, which is the internal issue. But by the way, our institution in the team which is working on the official statistics office, they try and they change the structure in the last 2 years. We already bypass and overcome to a lot of the challenges, but still we have challenges that in terms of data collection before data sharing, because whenever we have when we don't have the enough data which is coming through survey or the registered data, and the NSU cannot process and publish comprehensive statistical or official statistics. So still we have issues. The issue is like that. Most of our data which is used in the NSU is current data, means the official, the statistic or the data which is registered in the organization, and they have to provide that data to the NSU. Then NSU, based on the method in the principle, they will process and produce the official statistics. We have challenges still in those organizations which need to be registered proper data and provide the data, the complete and accurate data in the timely and within the time which you need to be sharing. The other one is the data sharing, privacy. There is different concept and different perspective from the data.
Sorry, you are on mute. Mr. Shakur,
Okay.
you are on mute.
I'm sorry, we just lost the last minute or so of your intervention. It seems you're on suddenly on mute. We'll see if we can fix that from this side.
Now is okay, you are hearing us?
And now is perfect. Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's use the headphones. The second issue is here the data privacy concepts. Any organization have their own definition in classification, and based on that, they will not share all the data, and they indicate this is the secret or the private data we cannot share. So this is also the internal issue, and we need to communicate that issue in the government level as well as international partners to create a general framework in the government level plus the international partners in order to force and create a proper channel for data sharing and have a proper definition for data classification and data privacy. So the third one is the third issue is technology and the system which we need to implement in the NSUs here. We have achievements, but still we need to support. We need supports from the developing partners to enhance that system, especially application which is need for data management, in the data visualization, data processing, or data sharing, and also the technology for data collection purpose. If we can use our developer support our NSUs to improve GIS technologies in terms of data collection, because due to security we cannot send the guys in different area to collect the required data, and also based on the limitation of budgets or expertise, we cannot collect the proper data. If our GIS team or GIS technology support properly, we can use the image in especially in the natural disaster, on the agriculture part, also in the population, in the house count. We can use this technology very well and process that image and produce a proper near accurate data for the official statistics. Right now we are working in the system level to improve our data visualization and data dissemination parts. We did some achievements. We create 2 sites. One is for data management and data sharing, which is data.gov.af, and the second one is stat.gov.af. This part is used for data visualization, and the client user can use this module to select raw data in their desired indicator and visualize on the live portal for the graph in different dynamics systems to have a picture in terms of any part in graph level. So we also create systems for data collections, and this system is available for all our internal partner and data providers, but due to lack of expertise, and all the partners cannot use that system to register, to upload the required data in the systems. So still we have the paper-based data collection in some parts, but we're trying to move all the data collection part from the legacy system to the digital solution which we have right now. In this part, we really expect our developing partners to improve us to support us to create a capacity in the client level, and as well as in NSU level for data processing and data visualization. The other part, the main part which we need to work on that is CRVS, because that is the essential part of the estimated yearly population activities. If we don't have the proper system for the CRVS, it means we miss the main part of the input for population estimation. Our health parties, our health organization or health sector already start some activity to register to distribute the certificate for the burn, but for the diet, we don't have proper systems to register all these numbers in different area of our country. Even in the COVID-19 pandemic last year till now, we have different limited activities in the limited hospitals to register the diet, those one which is died due to any reason, especially on the COVID. So we need supports from internally as well as from government, from the international in this part to improve this part. The other is the immigration, which is returnee or IDPs. In the returnee part, we have some achievements because we have limited borders, which is land border or the air borders. We have team there over there to register the returnee, but for the IDPs, here is unfortunately different case for the IDPs. So this is really a huge activities, and they need broad teams with the huge budgets, skills, and technologies to be able to register on time IDPs in order to have a clear official statistic in the provincial level as well as district level within the countries. In this output will help our international organization to use this data and be and make a proper planning for the developing project in different area of Afghanistan to reach the drought, to reach the poverty, to reach the COVID-19 pandemic in the other parts which need to be under control in order to mitigate the risk of to the national in the peoples. So as we got from the last 2 days workshops, the partners or the other countries have very good progress, especially in the services statisticals. And we also start this to collect this data in the services to include in the yearbooks, annual yearbooks, in the deserve publications. In the other part also, which we need to cover the tourism's statistics. We also start some activity in this part, but that is not sufficient. We are on the negotiation with the responsible or the right institution internally. So still they have the same challenges like the lack of expertise, lack of budgets, and limitation on the access to the area which the tourism which we need to provide the right, the accurate, the assured situation for the tourism to visit, and we don't have the proper registration systems in this part as well. So this was the main challenges, but all this, most of this related to the, unfortunately, the security situation. And to avoid these challenges, the only solution based on my consideration in survey is the technology, which is the GIS technology or the other technology which will be used to others in the other country to collect the data. Once we collect or receive the proper data, we already built the capabilities to process that data based on the methodology, statistical methodology, and the policies, and produce or share the official statistics to national as well as international partners for the decision making. Thanks for the hearing our explanation, and we hope to share the skills those countries face these challenges and find a solution to overcome such challenges. We hope to share that solution to us and help us to in order to overcome these challenges and be able to have enough statistical input data in order to enrich our public plus in international tools for data sharing or data publications. Thanks again.
Well, thank you very much for that. I see a few key themes coming out of what you've said that I think will be very familiar for many of the other countries on the call today. Challenges around developing the infrastructure at national level. Things like obviously the technology, the skills, and also the systems and processes for collecting basic information that can then be used for statistics. I note you mentioned a few times the GIS capability, and I think this is one particular strength of your office. I understand that I think you're one of only 3 countries in the world where statistical and geospatial information are combined in the one agency. So I think that's a relatively strong point for you. But I also note the challenges that the security situation brings on top of all of the other challenges of trying to develop a digital national system of recording information. So thank you very much for that. The next country that we've asked to give a short contribution on this point is Vanuatu, and I believe it should be Mr. Kapkalo Andy. Do we have Mr. Kapkalo or anybody from Vanuatu on the call? So it doesn't look as if they're with us at the moment. I didn't see the name in the participants list. So the next country that was asked to contribute was Kyrgyzstan with Lola Baimatova. But also I don't see Lola on the list. Do we have anybody from Kyrgyzstan on the call today? No, it doesn't look as if they're able to join us either just at the moment. But hopefully for the next one on the list, I think I saw a connection from Malaysia. So do we have Dr. Maud Uzir Mahidin or other colleagues from Malaysia on the call?
Hello.
Hello.
Mr. Steven. Actually, I represent from Dr. Muhammad Uzir Mahidin, Chief Statistician Malaysia. I'm Roslawati Yahya. Actually,
Okay.
Malaysia want to raise one issue on administrative data. Actually, Malaysia have abundance of administrative data that are available from government agencies and other sources. They are basically in the form of individual data obtained from registration process, online transaction, list of customers, and other transactions that can be used as a source of data or to complement the primary data collection to produce official statistics. Actually, however, most of the data are produced according to their purpose, and microdata carrying is subject to the respective act or legislation. SODOSM is the official statistic provider, but limited in terms of the authority to collect and standardize the administrative data from other ministry and agencies. The present act and legislation of the ministry and agencies prohibited microdata sharing. Therefore, there is a need to strengthen the institutional framework and legislation to capitalize on the use of this data. And in spite of the amount of data that are available from administrative record, there are a lot of process need to be undertaken to integrate, harmonize, and standardize the data. Actually, set of procedure and guideline must be developed and put into place to ensure the statistic worthiness of the data. Actually, that is our issue on collecting from administrative
Sorry, I think we lost the audio there. Can I just ask you to check that you're not muted?
Can you hear me, Mr. Steven?
Yes, that's better. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. For the our purpose is actually doesn't aim to enhance the existing Statistical Act 1965 and to develop Data Consolidation Act to enable data sharing with the respective ministry and agencies. With this, DOSM will have the authority to coordinate, facilitate, and act as the custodian of administrative data for statistical purpose. DOSM also aim to assist the potential to improve data integration among the government agencies, as well as to enhance efficiency and appropriate strategies. Actually, use the administrative data may reduce costs of conducting surveys and census. For example, we now do population census, and we come up with a population register-based administrative record, and from the administrative data can be developed, and we can lessen the cost of conducting the full case population and housing census. Moreover, as the use of administrative data increase, arrangements are necessary to ensure that data from administrative source are collected in a way that is consistent with the need of the statistician. This will enhance the quality of statistics produced with quality administrative data from the respective ministries and agencies. Thank you, Mr. Stephen. That's all from Department of Statistics Malaysia.
So thank you very much. I see there are a number of challenges with using the administrative data, including getting access, the standards, the quality, etc. There's quite a lot of work in this area at the moment internationally, particularly in relation to census. And I know that there are various guidelines and potential events coming up in the near future on these topics. So we'll make sure that we keep you all informed about those.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the intervention. So we have a little bit of time, and I noticed that at least 6 other countries highlighted that data ecosystems and improving data sharing and data use for official statistics and the legislation side of things were challenges. So according to my list, we have also Thailand, Iran, China, Mongolia, Samoa, and possibly 1 or 2 others. So I'd just like to open the floor for a minute in case any of those countries or any others would like to add to the issues that we've heard so far from Afghanistan and Malaysia. So who would like to take the floor to describe the issues that you're facing? At the moment, I don't see any hands up. I just asked my colleagues in Bangkok to let me know if they see any hands up. But if you don't find the hand up, then please just unmute and share your experience.
Steve, I might be able to intervene a little bit here as well. A reminder that we heard on last Monday, actually at the session on Monday from Mongolia, from the chairman of Mongolia, about how the COVID-19 pandemic had really put a spotlight on statistical systems to have more granular and more timely data. And in response, you know, some statistical officers quickly made use of existing administrative data to create some new series, you know, or to create some new indicators. But we also heard here in Asia and the Pacific, and look, I assume you also heard in Europe too, Steve, about those agencies that didn't already have like a data ecosystem and data access to administrative data, found it quite challenging to be able to quickly respond to those policy needs. So I think this issue that we heard, and so we heard from Mr. Batva, from Chairman of Mongolia, about the issue faced in his country was that there wasn't an existing like data infrastructure or data ecosystem, and this is where I think this, whether it's administrative data, whether it's access to big data types like satellite data, whether you've got access to the tools to integrate the data. We've just heard from both Afghanistan and Malaysia on that point, but I wanted to also highlight the example there from Mongolia last Monday, who also raised this, and therefore the legislative challenges, the legal as well as institutional challenges that is faced if you don't have this already in your country. I do think that in terms of COVID-19, we saw those countries that already had good access to administrative data could respond quickly to the new requests, whereas those countries that still had not put in place a good data ecosystem turned to the traditional methods of like running surveys or seeking support from donors, and therefore the ability to respond promptly or quickly and with disaggregated data was less effective than those with the access to administrative data. So I just wanted to bring that back, that conversation back that we had also with Mongolia last Monday. But I'll stop there because I see somebody's been brave and put their hand up, Steve. Thank you. Back to you.
Great. Thanks, Gemma. Yes, I think some very important points. We also see the same in the ECE region, that the countries that have made the progress before in getting access to data and in modernizing systems, moving towards digital sharing of information, were often able to react a lot quicker. But yes, we have a hand up. Sadiq Kwesi Botang, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Yes, yeah, I'm Kwesi, and I'm the regional statistician with UNHCR in the Regional Bureau for Asia and Pacific. Yes, I think my contribution is just on what we just heard from Afghanistan. And for us, the most important actually our appeals is our populations of concern. And we see very clearly, I work with the data on the annual statistical reports from all the countries in our region. And also, so we see the effect of COVID on our registration systems in terms of birth registrations, death registrations, and the effect of on our data. And particularly, one of our major interesting countries is Afghanistan. And so when the last speaker mentioned the IDP statistics, of course, for me, just kind of just take a bell in me that, well, this is an area that we cooperate with other organizations on. These are areas where we have policies, and we are also cooperating with the national institutions, because UNHCR, of course, we have a serious interest in the IDP statistics. Of course, in terms of the returnee statistics, like you mentioned, that is, I mean, these are people who are returning, and of course, we have they have systems in place. But for the IDPs, and where we have huge numbers in Afghanistan as well. And so we have systems where we have different figures from IOM, from the UNHCR, from the government. And so, yes, and so there's quite a lot of work that has to be done And I think from UNHCR's perspective, we are willing to, assist partners on the ground and then to probably improve on some of these systems. So actually, there are also plans to cooperate with the NSO, cooperate with our sister organizations there to improve the IDP statistics. And also to name that we have also the international regulations, the international recommendations on IDP statistics that have also been accepted at the United Nations. And these we are at the implementation stage where some of these programs will be rolled out together with our partner organizations as well. So just to name that the IDP statistics that he mentioned is particularly of interest to us, and that there are also plans. And I just thank him for, the presentation, also providing us with the security problems and the technical problems of the NSO as well. Some of these things we are already aware, but just to put it out there that these are very special interests for the UNHCR, and in any future programs or any future steps to improve the data on UNHCR POCs, we are actually very much on board to cooperate with ESCAP and cooperate with Afghanistan in some of these things. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. It's good that we have also another partner who is able to help with some of these specific issues that are being raised. I see we have a question that's just appeared in the chat from Shahuda. So this is about how line ministries can be engaged at policy level on the need to maintain administrative data to be able to generate sectoral statistics according to international standards and increase its use in policy making. And I see this as, yes, a general challenge that many countries are facing. Often it's quite a challenge to persuade other ministries of the importance of statistics and the importance of having good information that can be used for statistical purposes. Some countries have been more successful than others in this respect. Some have been able to get international statistical standards and classifications adopted across the whole of government. And I think that certainly should be an aim wherever possible. But it's really a topic that we could have a whole separate webinar on. This is, I think, something that is a long-term challenge, I think, for many countries. So I think we'll certainly keep a note of this and look at how this aspect can be included in the project going forward. I don't know if anybody has any reactions to that point, or if anybody else would like to say anything about the issues faced in the countries. Okay, I don't see any hands up or any further interventions. So I think what we should do at this point then, we've talked about issues. I think we should move to the second question in this session. And this is starting to look a little bit more towards the solutions. So how can we start to tackle some of these issues? I think we've already heard a few ideas coming up already in the discussion so far, but let's go now to think about the changes that we would like to see happen to tackle the different challenges that have been faced. And I would like to ask our panel members again to just come back and say a little bit about what exactly they would like to see. And we'll be looking particularly here for areas that we can take forward in this project between the international partners under the leadership of ESCAP to see what we can do to actually help you bring these changes about in your countries. So if I can go back to Afghanistan, Mr. Shako Jamshedi, would you like to take the floor and talk a little bit about what you would like to see happen to tackle the challenges you mentioned earlier? So you have the floor.
Hello again to all. First of coming to this, thanks for our colleagues to explain about the IDPs. Yes, we are already aware about the activity which is IOM or other international partner has been doing in Afghanistan. We already create negotiation with that, but also there is a challenges between the national entities or government entities among government entities and international NGOs doing activity in the countries. They still not agree in the specific methodology for the data registration or data collection and data producing. The national level there is or the part, suppose ILO or the immigration agency for the returnee for the IDP, there is a standard definition. But those NGOs working in the country, they created their own definition for this part, because if they goes based on that standard definition, they will face the challenges and they will not do the target or the target which they already decided to do. So they changes the definition in methodology. This is a good opportunity to share our concerns. Our international NGOs doing activity in any other countries in the statistic parts, any statistics parts, which is population, which is IDP, which is the industries, which is the drought, poverty, whatever. I requested to have agreement in close coordination with the national or government and institution, in based on their definition and needs, they have to make their proper plan. We cannot limit the international NGOs to our aims, because they have their own community and they need to go based on that policy. But it's better they consider the national level requirement in definition in the indicator which is needed nationally, because all development project and the strength process or the support which is going to be implemented in any specific country, this is for that specific or that national. So it's better to consider that requirements in that definition or methodology in the NSO or the government level in any specific country. And we face these challenges also in our country, unfortunately. But we hope to create a well coordination between national and international NGOs to working in this area, to have a proper and standard definition, and hope international partners accept that the request or the requirements which is coming from the national institution or entities for the better achievements. And the other requirement is that the international NGOs or partners working activity in any other country, they are not permanent. They are doing based on the projects. So it's better to improve, to strengthen the national or the government institution in order to be able to do that activity without the support or without the intervention of international NGOs if any time needed. So for what change we would like to see happen, in terms of technology, we would like to have advance in a common platform in application in the ESCAP level. And it's better to create a data framework in the ESCAP level, or those country partners which is working here for the specific indicators, and that indicators need to be updated properly yearly basis by the country or the partner of this union. In the national level, we need the support in the intervention of our international developing partner to improve our system, digital or information system for data collection. data processing and data dissemination or visualization. And when we come to this part, we need the capacity building as well, human resource capacity building in the specific parts, especially in the technology level, because this is advanced one and this is changed very soon. So we need to have a proper plan. If our partner is ready, especially ADB or some others, we will create Afghanistan, or we as NSO will create a proper plan for 2 or 3 years in order to make in order to have a close coordination in support of our international to improve our statistical systems. That will help us in plus international partner to have a proper accurate data. Nowadays, Afghanistan, in terms of data, Afghanistan is rich, especially NGOs have a lot of data, but there is a lot of concern on that data. If we go for the official statistic, we need to review all the method in the principle, which is collecting the data and processing and giving to international or national decision maker for the making decision. So we need to change the manner of supporting international partner in Afghanistan to do close coordination with the national level. Now Afghanistan is totally changed. It's not the last 10 years Afghanistan. We have and we did a lot of activity in different parts, and we have human resource capability. We have the proper in the good policy and legislative part. So we by the close coordination in the accepting meaningful request, we can avoid all these challenges. The other changes which we like to have, we need to yes, there is a proper policy in the union level, ESCAP or some others for the proper indicators. If for data sharing, there should be a proper common channel, technology level, in the country level from the international NGOs to share the required data among each others. That will be great. For this one, also we need to have a proper policy in order to partners obligated to share that data, and that data need to be in the owner of data be confident, yes, this data will be used properly, and there is no chance of misuse about the data, because in the world of technology and digital data, the privacy is much more important. We need to consider about that. The other challenges, which the other changes we need to have in the CRVS parts, because this is very important for us, and we need to, especially UNICEF is working in this part in Afghanistan. So if there is a insist from the UNISCAP or the other international community for those NGOs which is working in Afghanistan for this part, to create a proper coordination with the government entities and institutions to create a proper platform for the CRVS to collect the administrative data, and this will help us in terms of population estimation or population data to produce officially. Thanks again, and we hope to have one of our partners ready to support us in the data collection, data management, which is covering data collection, data processing, data management. This support will be required for 2-3 years based on a proper plans to develop a standard in the advanced systems for these three aims or activities, and also to train a team for within this specifics to drive and make live this system for Afghanistan government in order to produce official statistics for our international partners. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you very much. Some excellent points there. And I particularly pick up on the first point that you made about the challenges where an NGO or an international organization comes in with a short-term project with their own definitions, sometimes their own tools and methods, and collect some data and then leave. And often that doesn't really help with developing the long-term capacity in the country to be able to produce sustainable data. And that's something we're trying to tackle within the UN system at the moment. And hopefully we're making some progress there, that we're moving away from these ad hoc interventions to something more long-term and sustainable. But bringing in the whole NGO community is, of course, a wider challenge. I think there's a lot more awareness raising in the NGO community that we need to do. And the issues around technology and tools, again, I think are also very important. We've tackled that to some extent in the ECE region, and I know our partners in Paris 21 have also been working in that area with rolling out some standard tools to various countries. But I'd like to now also give the floor to Malaysia. I believe it was Roslawati from Malaysia. Would you like to say a few words about the changes you would like to see?
Thank you, Mr. Steven. Actually, we aim to enhance our statistic act so that it's easier to us to get and collect the data with ministry and agencies consistent and regularly. And actually, we need to standardize the metadata and concept that we use from agency. Actually, before this, we also have MOU with certain agencies and ministry. And now we need to strengthen our relationship between them, and so that we easier to us to get the data regularly. Okay, thank you, Mr. Steven.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Steven?
Yes?
Yes, I am Siti Asia. May I add on something on what Roslawati said just now?
Please, go
I'm
ahead.
also from Malaysia. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm Siti
please.
Asia from Malaysia. Okay. As what Roslawati said just now, we are now in progress to enhance our current statistic act. Yes, but in total, actually, we are now in the progress of enhancing our statistical system as a whole for the countries. So in this case, actually, we have several agenda. Namely, the first one is to set up the Malaysia Statistical Data Council, and this is supposed to be chaired by the top management of the country to give the direction of the statistical activities in Malaysia. And also, we are now develop the statistical capacity building, where we develop more statisticians towards data scientists, so that they expert in subject matter, statistical tools, analyzing and processing big data, and also can work towards digital environment. So this is actually what we are doing in Malaysia. Else, we are also doing now is to propose the National Statistical Office or our Department of Statistics as a central agency to coordinate and to set a policy on the procedure on data sharing and the activities of the data collection and production for the countries. So basically, we are now in progress, and we by timeline, this enhancing the statistical system in Malaysia will be fully established by 2025. Okay, that's all from me.
Okay, thank you very much. Some very important points there. I think really what we're seeing is points around different aspects of developing the capacity of an organization. We've done a little bit of work in UNECE on a sort of a model for the different aspects of capacity development, the different aspects of an organization that need to be developed. And there we have things like the institutional foundations, which includes the legislation. We have the data, the skills, the technology, the methods, etc. And I'm seeing all of these being mentioned. So it's great to see that we have all of the different components of a holistic view to developing capacity coming out in the discussion. We have, I think, 2-3 minutes left. So I'd like to just see if we have any other comments or questions from the floor. Do we have anybody
Stephen, can I just add on one more point here?
Yes.
So in Malaysia, we also currently developing our National Big Data Analytics Center. So this is actually to manage all the data sharing and all the data administrative in Malaysia, as well as to develop the technology on statistical method and collecting and production of a statistic in Malaysia. So this is also in pipeline, and now we already have core team to do all the works in National Big Data Analytics Center. So many things that we have done for National Big Data Analytics Center, among others, is we do what we call the system for the integrated system for social protection in Malaysia, as well as we also now doing the informal sector system on informal sorry, Rose, what is the system, Rose? So
SIM.
SIM. What is the
Shelter informal and micro data system.
Yeah, that is two things that we did in Malaysia for in the National Big Data Analytics Center. Okay, that's all, Stephen.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for that. Any further comments? I think we have a hand up. Let me see if I can find who it is. So this is, I think, outcome by Gentulga. Please,
yes.
you have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Stephen?
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much. I'm from Mongolia, and unfortunately today our chairman Batsawa cannot join this important event due to the unexpected meeting at the parliament. And as Mrs. Gemma said, and we are aiming to develop the integrated big data bases on Mongolia, and in order to this we have a good legal basis. So we need to make some legal amendments on the law and statistics of Mongolia in order to access to the other governments' databases and also the private databases. And the aim of this establishment of the government big databases is mainly to support the public policy with quality and objective national integrated database, and also to lead every citizens to enhance it and quality life. And also we're aiming to provide integrated data that is needed for pre-policy estimation and post-policy implementation assessments. And in relation to that, we need to cooperate with other government agency to access or to integrate all the databases in one places and to get these evidence-based statistics for better policy making decisions. So the first thing is we need to make on permission or the government support to implement our initiative, and by allowing us this legal environment and also this financial support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, having the right legal environment is absolutely key. There, I would mention some resources which I think were already shared with the group, the generic law on official statistics and the guidance on modernizing statistical legislation, which hopefully might be able to help you, at least provide some ideas in that respect. And I think I mentioned in one of the earlier sessions that we have also in November an online workshop on modernizing statistical legislation. So you're also, everybody on this call is very welcome to join that if it would be helpful for you. I don't see any other hands up at the moment, and I don't see any other comments in the chat. So I think at this stage, I will hand back to colleagues in ESCAP. And I think Arman is going to give us perhaps a little summary from the ESCAP perspective about the various issues and the challenges and the changes that are needed from the countries. So Arman, would you be able to say a little bit about what ESCAP and the other partners can offer in the context of this project? Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks, colleagues, for sharing your thoughts, the issues at the country level. They cut across a wide range of issues, but I would like, Steve, to highlight 3 levels for taking action for improving data sharing and data use, which all fall under the projects that we discussed over the past 2 days of the workshop. The first level is legislation and coordination, and it has to do with institutional setting and its foundation for data sharing and integration. We heard about the NSS review tool, for example, which is very, very useful and essential for environments such as Afghanistan. What we heard, issues are cutting across so many different areas, and an assessment and overview is really necessary to better understand where to start. And we also have guidelines on the statistical legislations that are available from DESA, from ECE, from Paris 21, and recently a very interesting work done by ECLAC, a comparative analysis of all legislations in Caribbean region. Those are all tools available which can be used at the legislation and coordination level. The second level for action is data interoperability. And there are a range of tools available on that. We discussed before, like generic statistical business process model, GSBPM, and data flow assessment framework recently developed by Paris 21 are very useful tools to basically map out the system, the ecosystem, data ecosystem, and better understand it. STMX is a standard for data metadata exchange and essential for for interoperability. We also have national quality assurance framework. We also have data integration manual, which was introduced to you before, and they are also very helpful for establishing interoperability. Of course, it is overwhelming at the first sight when you look at the entire giant statistical the data ecosystem, but it is important to keep in mind that these tools are there basically to help us to first map out everything and have the big picture, and then break down into different pieces and segments and work on them, which is manageable. Like one way of doing it is focusing on different sources of data, like household surveys, establishment surveys, economic administrative sources, population administrative sources. They could be done separately so that it is manageable. The third level of action, I would say, is the use of technology. And there are different tools also available there. For example, DATStat is a new platform developed by OECD and adopted by few countries and regional institutions, which is useful for as a data platform. There are also tools such as platforms such as Open SDGs, which is also adopted by some countries for dissemination of data, in particular on the SDGs. And also we introduced an analytical tool, which was National SDG Tracker, which is useful for analyzing data and communicating them. So these three levels of action we need to keep in mind, but the question is that is the order important? Yes, absolutely, it is important. Of course, without coordination and legislation, you can't have interoperability. And without interoperability, any kind of technology adopted is not going to be functional. But whether we should wait for coordination to be perfect, and it is, by the way, never going to be perfect, to start the second activity. The good news is that we don't have to do this because, of course, each of those actions have different timelines, and they are also reinforcing each other. For instance, having a technology in place helps data interoperability. Having sources of data mapped by applying, for example, GSPPM supports data modeling, as well identifies areas for coordination and gaps in legislation. So it is important to have a master plan that all three levels of action are being illustrated and all tools are being mapped out there, and coordination among different working groups are being established. But then you can work at all three levels in parallel. For instance, it is important that teams working on certain technology, not working independently, but working with data interoperability team. And also, for example, teams working on interoperability on certain group of data sources, such as household surveys, working together with other teams working on economic data. So this coordination is only being established at the master plan level, not at the working level. There's a lot to say on this, but I'm conscious of time. Steve, I think we still have more time to discuss those things. But I do think the next step for us is for partners to sit together individually with countries who raise these issues and try to develop that master plan and understand the extent of the issues and then identify few doable activities to start with. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Arman, and I fully agree with your comments there, and also a nice list of tools that are available. But yes, it's very important to think about one step at a time. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to make a fixed plan. There's a need for some flexibility moving forward, depending on new tools, new requirements, etc. But really, I think the best way is to start with an assessment of the current situation, an assessment of where you want to be in a certain number of years, and then to start building a plan or a roadmap on how to get there. And as Arman said, yes, it's very important to do this in the different areas in parallel so that it can move forward as quickly as possible. So I think we come to the end of this session now. Thank you very much for your contributions, your inputs. I have 3 pages of notes that I've scribbled down during this, and I'm sure my colleagues in ESCAP have at least as much as well. It's time now to move to the second panel in this workshop today. And this is the panel on the integrated indicator and monitoring systems. So for this panel, I hand over to Elaine Tan of the Asian Development Bank, who is going to moderate. So Elaine, over to you.
Thank you, Stephen. There was a really rich and wonderful discussion for panel 1. We are going to have a discussion now and a conversation on integrated indicator and monitoring systems. Our ESCAP colleagues have put together a very interesting program with representation from Nepal, Samoa, and Mongolia. And we will be talking about the importance of the issues faced in each of the countries with regard to integrated indicator and monitoring systems, as well as the leadership role of the National Statistics Office. And also, we'll also talk about what change would each of the representatives like to see happen. So without further ado, let me invite Dr. Hemraj Rajmi, Deputy Director General, Central Bureau of Statistics, Nepal, to kick us off. Dr. Rajmi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tan. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Hemraj Rajmi from Central Bureau of Statistics, Nepal. Let me put some of my views on this integrated indicator and monitoring systems. Let me start from the weaknesses. What are the main weaknesses that we have regarding this particular topic, the integrated statistics, integrated indicator? The first weakness that we are facing right now is we don't have national ID. It's not fully implemented, though we have citizenship numbers, but you all know that it's only for the elderly people, more than 16 years old. The national identification system is not fully established. The second one is the household numbers. The number of households, we have some household numbers in the urban municipality, but in most of the rural municipalities, that also does not exist. These are the 2 main weaknesses that we are facing in light to this integrated statistics management system. The another weakness, I can't say it's a real weakness. The statistical system here in Nepal is decentralized. Many agencies are responsible for generating different set of statistics. Though Central Bureau of Statistics is the custodian agency, but we have not been able to produce all sort of the data that are needed for the users. That's why many government agencies like Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, they are also producing data, the designated statistics that are relevant to them. Even the central bank, even some universities, they are also producing this sort of the data. The main challenge over here to integrate all these data sources is really a difficult task. We have everything. I have to tell that we have more than 60 years old Statistics Act, which was promulgated in 1958, a very old Statistics Act. We have a statistical council to coordinate all these activities, including designated statistics. We have national strategy for the development of the statistics, and we have many other plans related to statistics, related to monitoring and evaluation, and even related to the SDGs, the SDG monitoring. But the main challenge that we are facing right now is the proper implementation of these plans, strategies, the working facilities, the coordination mechanism that exists, but it's not functioning very well. That's the main reality that we are facing right now. Let me go a little bit to the strength that we have right now. The main strength regarding this integrated indicator statistics is that we have integration at the area level. The geographical area, like wards, the municipalities, the provinces, districts, and even the federal level. We can integrate information at the area level, but we can't integrate the available information at the household level or at the individual level that I just highlighted. At the area level, we are integrating this information. For example, we are calculating provincial GDP, which includes the combination, the integration of all type of the data. Either the data coming from the administrative sources, or the data coming from the surveys, or the data coming from the censuses. All those informations are combined, and then we have been able to generate even the provincial statistics, the provincial GDPs, the national account related indicators as well. Same applies at the national level, and in some municipalities, particularly on some large urban municipalities, we have been able to integrate these indicators from different sources. And we try to integrate these indicators if that's possible. It's not possible in all the cases, but in some cases it's possible. For example, in population census, we have many questions related with the agriculture, which is the largest contributing factor of the GDP as well, the national economy. That's why it's quite important. We generally get our frame for the agriculture census from the population census. We have many questions related with the trade, which is the second largest contributor of the GDP on the economic census. That means in this census and survey, we are combining these informations. That means we are integrating at the source level. Same is going to be applied at the area level. We are also integrating. Let me give you one particular example. We all know that there are more than around 244 SDG indicators, which all countries should have to report periodically. Similarly, the National Planning Commission, under which we work, Central Bureau of Statistics, we are working under National Planning Commission over here. The National Planning Commission is responsible for monitoring national level plans, like the current 15th periodic plan, even some sectoral plans like agriculture development plan, the infrastructure development plan, or the industry development plan, many other plans. They have some plans related with the economy, enhancing economy, developing infrastructure, even developing the social sectors. All these indicators are being monitored by different indicators, and then government has already decided 245 national indicators besides those SDG indicators. Now, if we aggregate these two set of indicators, the national indicator as well as SDG indicator, you can see around 479 indicators are there, which we have to monitor through this statistical monitoring system. That means some indicator will come from the administrative sources. For some of the indicators, we have to focus on the surveys, we have to focus on the censuses, and for some indicators, we have to go beyond the census survey, like we have to focus on the big data or open data. With that capacity is also lacking right now at the Central Bureau of Statistics. Now, I think, in my opinion, if we can prioritize these indicators, not only the national indicators, but the SDG indicators as well, because they are really very large, very much. 244 indicators, monitoring them periodically is a real challenge for the country like Nepal, which has very limited resources, and even the investment in statistics is very minimum. Even that investment is not sustained. The people working in the statistics are very few, around 500-600 people are working on the statistics. In this situation, the regular monitoring, periodic monitoring of these SDG indicators, national indicator, is a real challenge that we are facing right now. That's why my idea is that if we can prioritize those indicators, SDG indicators, which are most important to us, like poverty, or maybe the food insecurity, or the climate change related indicators like disaster related indicators. If we can prioritize them, and then if we can bring that set around 50-60, that's my idea, 50-60, and remaining 40-50 national indicators, the total should be around 100. Then I think the current capacity of the Central Bureau of Statistics and the capacity of the other institutions who are dealing with the designated statistics. That can be done if we can do through partnership, through collaboration, if we can prioritize the SDG indicators, and then if we can plan the regular monitoring of those SDG and national indicators, then I think we can have some real outcomes. We can have some real indicators which everyone can believe, including the citizens, the policymakers, the planners, and even the international community. I just mentioned that all these systems do exist, but the problem is that the status of the Central Bureau of Statistics is not quite high over here as compared to other countries. The Bureau is led by the Director General, which is a joint secretary level in comparison to the other government ministries. All the ministries are headed by the secretary or even by the ministers. And then this status of the head of the Statistics Bureau is also creating some problem on the coordination, because we cannot write directly to the ministry. We cannot even write directly to the other authorities because they are higher in the authority than us. That's why we are struggling with these issues. Main issue is not the availability of the plan, policy, strategy, or even law, but even the set of the indicators we have, but the real issue is the implementation. If the international community can assist us, can suggest us how we can really implement those plans, those strategies, and those policies, then I think we can do some development on the field of statistics. Thank you very much. This much for right now.
Thank you, Dr. Rashmi. That was a very comprehensive start to our conversation. Thank you so much. And I agree, national ID is an important variable or important linking tool or linking factor to have. And of course, there's always the difficulty in coordination and disaggregation of data, even when we are able to integrate the different data sources. And we also note your points about human resources constraints as well. Those are duly noted. Moving on to our second panelist, Ms. Mali Muamua Malaimpono Taua, the Government Statistician of Samoa, Bureau of Statistics, Samoa. Pono, are you here, ma'am? Pono, the floor is yours.
Let me just step in here, Elaine. I thought Fono was here.
Actually, her mic is on. Samoa's mic is on, but right now we can't quite hear the representative from Samoa. Perhaps we should move on to Mongolia first. Then may I invite the representative from Mongolia? Would that be Mr. Otgonbaya Gantuga, the representative from Mongolia? Perhaps you would like to take the floor first.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Gantuga. I can hear you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And that our chairman is not able to participate in this meeting, but however, our vice chairperson.
Sorry, Mongolia, I think we lost connection with you.
Sorry, the internet connection is lost and okay. Can you hear me now?
It's okay, you're back online. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, as you know, in the recent years, there's been problem with the macroeconomic statistics, like GDP, and then that they cannot provide a sufficient picture of the living condition of the normal persons, and this was the problem in the years of the good economic performance, but in the current financial economic crisis, and this is further increased, and also, you know, the creating the favorable environment for citizens to work and live is the main goal of the government, and then as well as the social groups and private sectors are working for these purposes, and then so NSO is we think that the national statistical officers must work to ensure that the policymakers and the decision makers have the necessary indicators on the regular basis. And addressing these issues will ensure the public policy more credibility and accountable. And there's we think that there's need to select the right indicators and measure the flow of information, and also to develop the methodology in line with the international standards. And for Mongolia, we have calculated and the following, and then we have several indices. The first one is Human Development Index of Mongolia, and as UN and called its member countries to issue the National Human Development Index and to identify the growing importance of the human development for sustainable economic and social development. And Mongolia has prepared this Human Development Index of Mongolia since this 1997 and disseminated total of the 6 reports and then the 3-year period. And the next one is we have developed and produced indicators on this MDG, Millennium Development Goals, since 2008, and also we are still producing and trying to compile indicators of the sustainable development indicators from this as 2015, and one another long-term development policy is Mongolia. And last year we have developed Vision 2050. It's like long-term development policy until this 2050, and so we are compiling the indicators of these documents, and some of all of them are finished and some of are still on the way, and we are compiling these indicators and disseminate these results indicators on public basis, on monthly and quarterly annual basis, and by updating them based on our statistical information and data. And the indicator aim to predict how the economy will change in the near future compared to the general trend. And also NSO has approved the methodology for accessing or evaluating policy at the national level of the government policy generally. And since we are obliged to improve this methodology according to the law and statistics of Mongolia, by fulfilling the role, NSO is comply with the international methodology and implement the international best practices, as trying to adding or modifying the indicator frameworks. And as the coordinator of the National Statistical System, National Statistics Office of Mongolia takes the leadership role in this work. And as everyone knows, at the global level, the measuring development indicator and avoiding and trend, there is a trend for avoiding to measure the economic growth, not only by the economic growth, and we are all trying to measure the social development by other indicators. And globally, you know that we are focusing on avoiding trend measuring development, but not only by, as I told, not only economic growth, but also to focus on the social development indicator. And in this connection, we are following the trend of not to collect too much data also, and to estimate too many indicators. And also the quality of administrative statistics and administrative record is constantly monitored, and ensuring the coordination and methods such as use of information technology that we are using in this area. NSO of Mongolia is also giving a lot of time to work with the government and then the line ministries and other agencies to make sure our role and responsibility from both sides, and also to identify the use of necessary financial and human resources. So this is all from our side. So thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Gantuga, for your intervention. And yes, Mongolia has done much over the last few years and the past decades since the development of MDGs in 2008. So thank you very much for your contribution. We will go back to Samoa. Ono, are you ready to with your intervention?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. So we understand that an integrated indicator and monitoring system involves all the data producers at the national level, and it is a great opportunity to minimize the duplication of efforts like data compilation by different players. It will reduce respondent burden and leading to increasing cost efficiency. We also understand that this integrated indicator and monitoring system will require a well-coordinated and robust national statistical system by the NSO. And so this brings me to say that we have 3 key issues with regards to the integrated indicator and monitoring systems. Firstly, Samoa's national statistical system is currently fragmented due to many data players involved, which makes our coordinating role as the NSO to be complex and complicated due to limited capacity and resources to coordinate all the players in the whole statistical system, like government agencies, private sector, and also civil societies. Secondly, as the SDG indicators is now becoming part of our national data indicator framework, this adds more burden on the role of the NSO in moving towards an integrated indicator and monitoring system, especially when we do not have a reliable tool like the UN ESCAP SDG tracker that can track progress and also pile in support of all the players involved in the compilation and monitoring of the SDG indicators. And lastly, our current Statistics Act is not strong enough to capture all aspects of the coordination mechanism that the NSO can legally use to get full access to all types of data from the government agencies and the private sector, and especially the civil societies to support this integrated system. So those are the issues, those are the key issues, but we have a lot of other issues in regards to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fono. And now let's turn to the second question. What change would each of the speakers like to see happen? Maybe go back to Nepal's representative, Dr. Rachmi. What would you like to see happen? Dr. Rachmi.
Plan once again.
Hi.
Are you listening to me? Yes, in my previous presentation, I basically discussed on the issues related with the problem on implementation, problem on coordination, not on the policy, not on the law, or not on the strategy, but real issue was the real implementation. For this, the government of Nepal around 2 years ago has developed one policy idea. It's not only the policy document, but the policy idea, which is called National Data Profile. This National Data Profile was basically the priority action point that was highlighted even by the President on the government's regular policy and program brief at the Parliament, where she clearly explained that all the plans, all the monitoring systems should have to be based on the evidence, and that evidence base should have to be developed as a database. With the direction from the government, we started one new initiative that was called National Data Profile. Then we tried to integrate all the stakeholders, basically the stakeholders at the government level. Let me explain a little bit about the governance system of Nepal over here. Few of you may be aware and few of you may not be aware. About 4 years ago, we got new constitution and then we went to federal system. Even the statistical system was federalized, decentralized. Now we have the federal government, the 7 provincial government, and then 753 municipalities. Around 460 rural municipalities and 293 urban municipalities. All these municipalities and provinces are autonomous on generating statistics. They can generate data needed for them. Even they can develop some indicators for regular monitoring of their programs and policies. Then in this case, we try to harmonize the methodology. For example, if one municipality will go and ask with a particular household that are you poor or not, and then the respondent will tell that I am poor or not, then that type of information will not be realistic. Considering these issues, what is the proper definition of poverty, what is the definition of unemployment, or even what is the definition of food security or the nutrition, we decided to develop one platform that is called National Data Profile, and then we developed the set of the indicators. The few indicators, those were relevant to the municipalities. There were a few higher level indicators, those were relevant to the provinces, and all those indicators were relevant at the national level. And even we identified the institutions like at the federal level, the ministries, the line ministries, the departments, the central bank, even the universities. At the provincial level, we also identified the provincial ministries and provincial departments and all the municipalities which indicators would have to be completed by them. Even again, I have to tell with this community that the progress is not much satisfactory. Though the system is functional, but the data generation is very weak at the lower level, at the municipal level. And even if there are data from the past census survey and different studies, they have not been uploaded properly in the system. That's why the system is not again working very well. And then I just wanted to verify, I just wanted to prove my statement in the first presentation that all the system is over there, but it's not working properly. That's why we need the suggestion from the experts, from the international community, how to make the effective implementation, how to do the effective coordination. What should be the steps 1, 2, and 3 to have effective implementation? That's my idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rachmi. Yes, indeed. And upgrading of systems, data systems is indeed an important consideration. Could we go back to Vono from Samoa? On what change would you like to see happen? Vono?
Okay, thank you very much. There's a lot of changes I want to see, but I'll just focus on 3 ones with the key issues that I mentioned before. First, I would like to have a full review of our national statistical system and also establish a guide to implement and monitor the changes that will take place. This will give us a holistic view of the existing gaps and opportunities for us to move forward when we have this national statistical system reviewed. I know that Maldives has completed that exercise, which has also inspired us to do a similar project for Samoa. Secondly, I would like ESCAP to help us in the application of the SDG tracker, so we can quickly find gaps and challenges in our existing indicator framework, and hopefully it should help us to achieve some of those progresses before we reach the 2030 agenda. And lastly, I would also like a review of our statistical legislations to ensure that all these new data initiatives and digital innovations, and especially the role of all data players, policymakers, and the media are well captured in the legislation, especially their roles and functions in the national statistical system, like the integrated indicator and monitoring framework. So that's it from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fono. I think that leads very well from Aman's intervention earlier about having a three-tier roadmap whereby you work from data inputs all the way to technologies and definitions. So those points that you raised are well taken. Thank you. Maybe go back to Mongolia, please. Mr. Gantuga?
Thank you. So,
what change would you like to see happen? Yes, I can hear you now.
And so we also need to say that what we are doing at the moment. So I'd like to talk about the activity that we are doing so far. So as you know, that there are many factors affects our living conditions, like health, education, and family and social group and work environment. In order to measure the impact of these many factors, we have divided into the three main domains, like social and economic and environment. And in our country, some indicators related to these domains have been selected and improved. For example, we have, for the social development measurement, we improved the health and education and paid work and unemployment, crime and family and democracy and carbon statistics. For the economic development measuring indicators, we have improved the gross national income and household income and housing and apartment statistics. For environmental development, we improved these indicators of statistics on land and water and air and waste. And also based on the sum of study of indicators that measuring the social and economic development of the world and other countries, we are working on a few areas. That is, you know, that there is a trend to study the social development not only in terms of economic development, but also in terms of measuring social and environment phenomena indicators in relation to the economic indicators. And our countries need to join initiative that develops a methodology for calculating integrated national index that reflects socio-economic development. And experience of some of other countries shows that not only statistics office, but also the multi stakeholders organizations are involved in selection of the indicators and development of the methodology. We also think that it is necessary to select indicators to measure the social development of Mongolia based on suggestion and recommendation from experts and researchers and the policymakers in the relevant field. And then it's necessary to ensure the participation of all parties in estimation of the national index. It's also possible to calculate national development index by expanding the scope of the human development index. Based on the experience of other countries and data availability, we have prepared and rational and data source of 39 indicators of 10 groups that can measure the well-being of Mongolia. And also there is need to consult with the relevant organization on these proposed indicators and to organize discussion with policymakers and decision makers and academicians and the community groups. In the future, it is necessary to develop methodology for calculating integrated indexes and to make calculation according to the approved methodology and disseminate them to the public. In addition to our proposed indicator, some subjective indicators may be included, and I think for that case we need to conduct a special survey. In connection with this, NSO is supporting researchers, scholars, and users of statistical data to develop proposals and creating new and social economic dashboard, which will be on the one of the additional menu on our integrated statistical databases. So there are key indicators we have developed, and for the social and economic dashboards, and as for example, we are integrating, for example, 53 indicators from 14 sectors from economic statistics. This new dashboard covers 27 macroeconomic indicators, 27 microeconomic indicators, 14 social indicators. So back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the intervention from Mongolia. Could I open the floor to the floor for questions? And I think in the chat box there is a question from Vitaly Kama. Is there any country that successfully integrate their national ID system and could share their experiences on how it's improved their data collection and sharing of information? I'll open the floor to answers. Is there any country would like to share your experience and how you successfully integrated a national ID system? I think, of course, the Norway and the Scandinavian countries are, of course, the leaders in integrating their administrative databases, which was also mentioned earlier in the first panel. They have been creating the longitudinal databases, administratively based databases for the last few decades. And they were talking about, they started with creating national ID systems to help with that integration. So definitely, I think around the world, there would be lots of experience that we could learn from advanced national statistics office. Yes, and South Korea as well. From COSTAT, there is an intervention. Indeed, you have South Korea has also built administrative databases. And I believe our colleagues from the Department of Statistics Malaysia is also turning their attention to administrative databases. So indeed, we do have a rich experience around the world. Are there any other questions? Yes, there's one. Let me see. Yes, that's right. The civil registration systems from the colleagues from COSTAT, absolutely. Maybe the colleague from COSTAT would like to turn on your microphone and share more information with us. COSTAT colleagues?
just hang on.
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a national ID system which is given to all individuals since the time we are almost born. So all the data, the public administrative data on individual has the ID. So it makes it easier for us to use the citizen register data for the statistical purpose. But one issue is the privacy issue. So people are very worried.
Who's that calling?
Balance between the privacy and data openness. So we, COSTAT is trying to establish a platform called the Case Statistics System that uses a special technique to protect privacy so that we can balance between the privacy issue and data public use. So that's about I can tell for now.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you, our colleague from South Korea. Indeed, I think introduction of a national ID would be an important first step that will really help integrate the different data sources. Another theme that came up from the second panel is about coordination of different stakeholders, especially with different line ministries. May I open the floor to any inputs from any countries or any national statistics offices with experience to share about coordinating different line ministries? Okay, so no takers, right? Is something that we will probably as international partners need to think more deeply on and share experiences across countries and across different statistics offices. I noticed that the guest, the representative from the Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, Mr. Hossein, you have your camera on. Would you like to intervene, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Over to you, please.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to share the experiences we are getting in Bangladesh with the line ministries who are providing data in the national statistical system, and also the users who are using the data from the national statistical system. In Bangladesh, we generally get the so-called survey census data, statistical data from the National Statistical Office, that is Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. Most of the survey and census are conducted by Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, while the line ministries provides the administrative data from their own sources. Actually, the line ministries are not very much aware of the international standards and definitions, and they generally collect data and compile for their internal use only. So 2000 government has enacted Statistics Act 2013, and in this act it mandatory for all the government line ministries to use the official statistics, and the definition of official statistics has been defined as that the statistics which is being generated by the NSO, as well as the other statistics which is validated by the NSO. So it is mandatory to validate all type of statistics to be official statistics in Bangladesh. So we have the good environment legal environment here. So it is a good thing for us in Bangladesh, and line ministries are now very aware of that. And we have good collaboration with the line ministries. The government has already ensured a committee that is known as the National Data Coordination Committee, headed by Secretary Statistics and Informatics Division. All the line ministries are member of that national committee. In every 2 months, this committee sits together. Even the civil society, the private sector is also member of that particular committee. Under that committee, there are 10 different thematic subject matter thematic committees, technical committees. They sit together in every 2 months also with the stakeholders and share the data and the data gap issues and what are the requirements from the users. It has been discussed in those meetings. We have some requirement from the line ministries to the National Statistical Office that as they don't have enough skilled personnel, especially on the data issues, on the statistical data issues, so they need some skills on use of the data. So we have started to provide statistical literacy training to the focal points, especially from the line ministries. In now up to date, we have provided 3 separate series of trainings to the data users and also the data compilers focal point in the different line ministries. We have provided about 500 officers training during this time from Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. We are also providing data literacy trainings to the journalists and media personnel, and we also provide the any type of disclaimer if any erroneous interpretation is seen in the media or in any other persons or users. We respond from the National Statistics Office regularly. We have also identified that especially for ensuring the quality of the data, we have started working to confirm our national quality assurance framework, NCAF. Hopefully, we will be able to publish our first guideline report by this year. We are working. We are getting support from the UNICEF for this purpose. So far, we know, including Malaysia and other countries, they have already completed their NCAF. In this meantime, and in the meantime, I would like to request the member countries if they can share their experiences or regarding the NCAF, how they have developed it and how it has been applied in their country context. That will be helpful for us. And if they have any other experience regarding the user training or data literacy issues, they can share with us, and we can also share our experiences regarding these issues. Thank you for giving me the floor to share our experiences here. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Hossain from the Bureau of Statistics in Bangladesh. Thank you very much. And I think you made a very salient point that legal and institutional frameworks are the starting point. It's really important to get that right. Let me hand over to my colleague in ESCAP, Chris Ryan, who will wrap up this discussion, this fruitful conversation, and talk about the steps forward. Chris?
Okay, thanks very much, Elaine, and good afternoon and good evening to everyone. I'm going to break this little closing intervention into about 3 different components. The first one's going to revolve around giving the other countries that showed an interest in this particular area when they filled in their country intervention forms. We've heard from 3 countries in the last 30 minutes or so, but there was another 5 or so that also have an interest in this topic. So I just want to quickly touch on some of the key challenges and some of the things or changes they want to see in this area. And some of the things that those countries brought up were things like, how can we also include indicators from regional and sub-regional initiatives. And I'd also add to that, I mean, there's other global initiatives outside the SDGs that we need to consider when developing our national indicator frameworks. There's a couple of countries mentioned the best way to merge the SDG indicator framework with an already pre-existing national indicator framework, which is an important issue for this. And then there's the big issue of how you appropriately address data disaggregation in your indicator frameworks. It came more from a production side, but it still is a really important issue to address when you're developing your indicator framework. I mean, some of the things that countries want to see sort of changed. Firstly, a much clearer understanding of what their priorities are with respect to the data they need to produce the indicators that are their priorities. A clearer identification of who's responsible for the different types of indicators that the countries are looking after or want to produce. And then a better understanding of where countries sit with respect to meeting the 2030 agenda. So that's just a little summary of some of the other countries' issues. The second point I just want to touch upon is that there's a couple of key issues I think which are really important to talk about and address when countries choose how they can tackle, in particular, the selection of tools that might help them with producing national indicator frameworks. And the first one I want to just touch upon quickly, and it sort of came up in the discussions last week, is how do you choose which tool might be appropriate for you? And are they doing the same thing, or are there differences between some of these tools? And in the chat, you might recall there was a question raised, is EPIC and ADAPT a similar sort of tool? And Armin did answer that well, but I just want to expand on that a little bit. And I want to focus on four tools in particular, a couple from ESCAP, which is the EPIC tool and the National SDG Tracker, one from ADB, the Guidelines on Disaggregation, and then one from Paris 21 on the ADAPT tool. So firstly, when we're talking about national indicator frameworks, we can actually break it down into sort of two aspects. One is how we go about creating these indicator frameworks, and the second is what do we do with them? I mean, how do we use them and benefit from their existence? So firstly, looking at the issue of creating the national indicator frameworks, I mean, there's a couple of tools there which I just touched upon, which can be very useful in supporting that process. And the EPIC tool is specifically designed for doing this and helping countries come up with appropriate national indicators. And a big part of that is coming up with the most appropriate levels of disaggregation for them. But the tool itself doesn't have any great guidelines to address that. So that's where it can partner up very nicely with these just newly developed guidelines that ADB's put out, which have a whole chapter devoted to the importance of addressing the issue of data disaggregation. So that's one sort of example how a couple of tools can combine. And this is just in the issue of developing indicator frameworks. The second side of things is, how do we use these tools? How do we use these tools, or how do we use these indicator frameworks? What tools help us use them? And I'll start by looking at ADAPT, the Paris 21 tool. And as its name suggests, it's advanced data planning tool. So it's more focused on helping countries, once they've got sort of an understanding of what sort of indicators they're trying to produce, is coming up with a plan. What data do we need? Where are the gaps? And costing the process of trying to fill those sort of gaps. So that's what it's addressing. The SDG tracker, for instance, that ESCAP have, it's probably more focused on, it's more an analytical tool. So what it's trying to do is give countries the option of adding additional indicators to the existing global ones and coming up with hopefully a more representative explanation of how that country's progressing against the SDGs. So one of those tools is more planning, the other one's more a progress assessment. But both need a strong indicator framework to feed into them, and that's where the EPIC and the guidelines come in. So it's just an example of how all four of those tools are quite different, but they complement each other really well. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with what do I need in country. It's not a matter of choosing one tool or the other. Sometimes two or three of them could work well for you. The second point I just want to touch upon, and I'm glad Nepal made this comment during their intervention about the issue that their statistics authority, or their NSO, has a low sort of authority within government. What I see in using these tools, it really can help give the NSO a more prominent sort of leadership role in a lot of the activities within the national statistical system by adopting or applying these tools. And I just want to sort of explain this by talking about a couple of tools that ESCAP were involved in, which I've just mentioned, EPIC and the National SDG Tracker. And for both of those tools, for them to work effectively, you have to have, well, we sort of look at it as three parties: the statisticians, the planners and the line ministries coming together and consultating with each other a lot to make it work. The tracker is sort of a new tool, so the way that's going to work still needs to be developed a bit. But when it comes to developing indicator frameworks, this has been happening for years and years and years, and it's far too often happening that the NSOs have not just been not included enough, but been left out of the process. So by adopting tools like this and giving sort of more authority to the NSOs, not only do they get involved, but they can start leading the process of developing these national indicator frameworks. So keep that in mind. These tools can really help your NSOs have a more prominent sort of figure in your government. Just finally to finish, where to proceed. This is going to be short, like Armin, because we're not too sure what to do now. Because we did get only brief information from countries in the country intervention forms. So one of the first steps is going to be come back to the countries who have shown interest in this issue, just to understand better, the situations you want to look at. Is it about developing an indicator framework, or is it about using an existing one, to plan or to monitor? So once that's been clearly determined, we can then work with you to set that up, and hopefully in a manner which will put the NSO right in the heart of it, if not the lead of the work that you'd be doing. So that's all from me. Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you, Chris. And those are excellent points. I'm very conscious of the time. So we've only started this conversation, and of course we'll continue with the conversations with our national statistics officers. May I hand over to Rajiv, please? Rajiv will be leading the third panel, and Rajiv is from Paris 21. So over to you, Rajiv.
Thanks, Elaine. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Very glad to be here. So our session, this panel is on statistical and data literacy with a heading of improving the understanding of line ministries and policymakers of the role official statistics play in policy making. This is going to be a 45-minute panel discussion. With me, the fellow panel members are from Nepal, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. And we will also have a closing statement and summary from Ian Smith from ESCAP. We will do this in 2 rounds. The first round, as we have done in the previous panel, we'll look at the problems, issues, and then in the second round, we will look for the solution. And the third phase will be the question and answer session. So without any further delay, I'll start with the round 1. And the question here is, what is the issue you face in your country with regard to statistical and data literacy, especially among line ministries and policymakers? We have Nepal, Bangladesh, and Vietnam to answer this question, and each speaker has 5 minutes each. So again, I'm repeating the question. what is the issue you face in your country with regard to statistical and data literacy, especially among line ministries and policymakers? May I call upon Regmi from Nepal?
Thank you very much, Rajiv. It's almost one and more year, no, 1.5 year that we discussed last year in Delhi.
Yes,
if you remember
yes,
during
yes.
ICAS session, no?
Yes, good to
On
see you.
International Conference on Agriculture Statistics. Good to see you, Rajiv, though your video is off, but I
Oh,
can
is
just
it?
down. No, I can't see, but maybe not sure. No?
Okay.
Today I am speaking a little bit more, and then even I participated in the second round of the discussion. That's why I will not go into much detail during this discussion. This topic is basically related with the advocacy of the statistics, and then let me reiterate a little bit. Nepal has a very long history of statistical development. We started population census almost 110 years ago. We have already completed 11 population census, and now almost prepared for the 12th round of the census, population census. That means we have a very long history of the population census, though it has been temporarily paused due to the second wave of the COVID. And we plan to restart the census activities very soon once this COVID will be the lockdown measures, which has been issued over here in most part of the country due to COVID lockdown. Once they will be lifted, then we will again restart the activities of the ongoing population census. Similarly, we have also a long history of doing agriculture census since last 60 years and more. Starting on 1960-62, we have been doing agriculture censuses. We are producing national income accounts in the form of GDP and others since last 60 years. We have a Statistics Act, which is almost more than 60 years old, even older than me. But the interesting thing that I want to present over here that about 2 years ago, the CBS, Central Bureau of Statistics Nepal, conducted one user satisfaction survey. We did that according to the international recommendation, international standards. Then you maybe wonder that many people even don't know about the statistics. And then the output, the recommendation of the survey, the recommendation of the report was that statistical literacy is very low at the policy level. Now you can compare. We have a history of more than 100 years of census taking. We have a history of more than 50-60 years of generating national income accounts. But even still the policymakers, the politicians, the planners, they are quite unaware about the statistical development in the country. They don't know the methodology. They don't know the statistical legislation. They don't know the international practices that has been implied in other countries. Even some of the users are not satisfied with what we have. Though we have a lot that I can claim, but they are not satisfied. Those were the results of that user satisfaction survey. That's why still we think that this statistical literacy is very much significant, very much relevant in a country like Nepal, where basically the policymakers who come from the political background, they don't have much academic knowledge on the statistics or on research, but they have more knowledge on the politics. That's why we have to reorient them. We have to teach them about the importance of statistics, how statistics are generated. Some politicians, sometimes they think that statistics can be generated automatically. They will ask with you how many people are poor in your country, and then we have to give some references based on some surveys that may have been done a few years ago. But now the COVID is there, and then can you give me a number that how many people have gone to below poverty line due to this COVID? This type of questions are asked by the policymakers, and then they need the rapid response. They need the immediate response that what should be the percentage of the poor that may have gone up, or if some the growth rate is quite high, for example, the GDP growth rate is 8% or 9% in a particular year, then again they will start asking what may be the number of poor people that has gone below the poverty line or above the poverty line. This type of questions we always face from the policymakers, even from the ministers, the chair of the planning commissions, and many others. But still we have not been able to fully teach about the importance of the statistics, how these statistics are generated, how difficult is it to derive a single indicator of poverty or to derive a single indicator of unemployment. They don't think that it's quite easy. Just go and ask with a person, and then are you unemployed or employed? Then just record it. If the household head says that he is poor, then he comes to the poor household. Otherwise, he comes to the non-poor household. That type of thinking is there with the policymakers. That's why we plan to conduct some this literacy-related programs, maybe through some conferences, through some awareness programs, or even on some political forums. For example, we have some political forums like the parliamentary committees, not the main parliament, but the parliamentary committees where we can discuss this type of issues. And then in some of the rare cases, we have done this also. Like the parliamentary committee on SDG monitoring, parliamentary committee on planning, and parliamentary committee on climate change, and something disaster management related committees. Sometimes they invite us, and then we keep our points that what is the statistical system over here, who is generating what, and then how these indicators are calculated, and how much we have to invest in the statistics, how we have to prepare the manpower. Why do we need institutions to work on the different sector of the statistics, and then how we have to be comparable with the other countries, with the international communities. We are trying our best on all these issues, but still, I told you that the recent user satisfaction survey has shown that still the statistical literacy, the data illiteracy is quite high in Nepal. That's the reality. With this, I want to complete my points right now. Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you, Dr. Regmi. I mean, this was really very insightful to understand how the Central Bureau of Statistics is struggling with this issue. And I do want to kind of touch upon a couple of things that you mentioned here, that you have a user satisfaction survey, and this is important because you have taken the step to understand that why, in spite of so long tradition of production of good statistics, still you find that there is a low level of awareness about statistics, particularly in the policymaking community. So the first thing is that you have made an effort to measure it. The second thing that you have highlighted is also very important, which is about that the policymaker should not be only the consumers of the statistics or data, but they should also understand or be sensitized about how these statistics are produced, so that they create the demand for data, which then the statistical offices can produce. I also like to underscore your some kind of a suggestion about how the statistical literacy can be taken to the parliamentarians who are the policymakers in the country. So these are very insightful comments from Nepal. Now let's move on to another country in the region, Bangladesh. And I'll like to call upon again Mr. Alamgir, if you can come in and explain to us what are the main issues you are facing in your country about statistical literacy. Maybe you would like to unmute yourself, Mr. Alamgir?
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Please go ahead.
Yes. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Yeah. We have met last time maybe in Addis Ababa. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for meeting you again. Okay. In Bangladesh, I have already shared in the earlier session few issues regarding the data literacy that Bangladesh, in the policy level and in the data users, there are lack of knowledge regarding the statistical data using. They have lack of knowledge regarding the standards, definitions used, and how the data are being generated and how the interpretation would be. We frequently faces some problems regarding the erroneous interpretation from the different users of the statistical data. So from the National Statistical Office, we have started to provide the clear picture, clear information or interpretation of the data which has been or which is being erroneously interpreted by the media especially, and we provide to try to discuss with the media personnel. We generally regularly conducting press conferences for while we releases any official statistics and try to make them understand clear understanding of the data is being published. Besides that, we generally conduct few training for the data users from the line ministries. We have already provided more than 400 officers training for the more than 400 officers from different line ministries, as well as from the private sector and civil society, to ensure the knowledge about how the official statistics is being produced, how it should be interpreted, what the factors to be considered while using the data, and what are the actual sources and which sources should be used for which purposes. We try to provide such type of training to the data focal points. So it's a regular activities by the National Statistics Office in Bangladesh. We have started these activities for the last 2 years, since last 2018, 2019. We have some other activities. You will be very happy to know that in Bangladesh, Prime Minister has formed a committee that is known as the National Data Coordination Committee, and that committee is responsible to ensure the coordination among the National Statistical Office, National Statistical the stakeholders of the National Statistical System, including the line ministries, and all the line ministries, including the private sector and civil society representatives, are member of the National Data Coordination Committee. And this committee actually sits in every 2 months and discuss their issues which should be the recent issues, and what are data requirements from the line ministries, and what are the requirements from the National Statistics Office. So recently we have started to work to ensure the national qualitations framework, developing our one, and hope we will be able to publish it by this year. That are the recent experiences from our side.
Mr.
Thank
Alamgir.
you, Razik.
No, I was just trying to highlight that we will have another round to discuss about the changes that you would like to see in Bangladesh going forward to resolve some of the issues. And you very well highlighted some of the issues that you are facing about how erroneously data gets reported by some quarters. So we'll come back to the solution part a little later, but let's move on to another country to see what kind of issues Vietnam is facing in the area of data and statistical literacy. Do we have Mr. Nguyen from Vietnam? Any other person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello from
Please
Vietnam.
Hello, please go ahead. Please tell us what are the main issues you are facing in terms of data or statistical literacy in your country.
Yes, like many countries, we have some issues related to in data literacy. The first, we have now currently we have no national data warehouse with core data, so data user cannot access data in a centralized manner. The second, I have to talk about the microdata access. In legal document, we have no provision for the microdata access. However, now the need for real-time data flow analysis require many microdata, including statistics as well as data from statistics survey to build social economic forecasting models. These are big challenge for Vietnam statistics. The third issues I would like to mention about the lack of standards and classification standardized. I want to talk about now we are disseminating the data to data user without the affected standard and methodology, classification or definitions. So the user cannot understand what the data was produced, and we cannot measure the data quality from data qualities. I would like to share about the data quality framework of Vietnam. We have developed a framework of, for Vietnamese data quality with 92 criteria for assessing official statistics of Vietnam. However, the implementation of this set of criteria is has not been done. So the assessment of official statistics now in Vietnam has not been implemented, and there are so many questions from data user set down for official data quality. Yes.
No, thank you so much for explaining the challenges or the issues that you face in Vietnam. I mean, and I see that you very clearly highlighted three main challenges. One is about not having a proper data warehouse, where you think that the production can be improved further, is affecting access to data and literacy. Second is also in terms of microdata and the inability of the legal environment to facilitate access to microdata. And the final thing that you mentioned about was the quality assurance framework and the lack of standards and definitions, which can again hamper the understanding and use of data. So thank you so much, all three of you, my fellow panel members, to explain about the main challenges that you see in your country around the issue of data and statistical literacy. So now let's move on to the second segment of this panel, where we will look for what kind of changes would you like to see in your country, which can then highlight the state of like the success in this area. What would you like to see that should happen in your country in this area? So I'll start again with Dr. Rajmi. Please keep your responses to kind of a shorter. We have to finish this session in time.
Thank you, Rajiv. The main issue is the planning and then the proper implementation of these programs, because we already know the problems. The problem is there on the implementation, then problem is there on the literacy of the politicians, policymakers. I have to say that they don't know the importance of the statistics, and then we have to tell them the importance of the statistics by national forums, international forums, and for this we have to develop some institutional mechanisms, like the capacity of the NSOs should have to be strengthened. I think that should be the first action point. Again, the working capability of the committees, particularly the National Statistical Council, whose main role is to coordinate with the different agencies, and then that role has to be strengthened. That should have to be supported by the manpower, by the technologies, and then by the trainings, by advocacy materials, and in this way we can increase the literacy on the data. We can increase the literacy level of the data, and then if we can teach them properly the importance of the statistics, importance of the data in planning, monitoring, to find out the real situation of the particular time, then I think we can convince the policymakers so that we can get the resources. We can get more human resources, we can get more financial resources. With those financial resources, we can train the people working in the statistics sector, and then we can use the modern technology with assistance from global partners, development partners. That's my idea.
No, thanks, Dr. Regmi, and I like your practical approach to it. That yes, I mean we know the solution. What is needed is the implementation, and you have very well highlighted where the implementation has to happen. So that's a fantastic point. Now let's move on to Bangladesh, and Mr. Alamgir, if you can explain what changes would you like to see in Bangladesh in order to improve the statistical literacy that you have issues with.
Thank you, Mr. Razib. I have already shared some initiatives we have taken for the National Statistics Office already. So in the near future, we are expecting that in the National Statistical System, there should be a good coordination system among the line ministries with the National Statistics Offices. National Statistics Office. I have not shared another thing that when any of the line ministries conducted any statistical survey or censuses according to the Statistics Act, they take the NOC from the National Statistics Office. And whenever they report to any international level, all the data are being validated by the National Statistics Offices. So all the line ministries are now on board now, and we hope though some of the gap are still remaining, but we will be able to make a new changes in the National Statistical System, especially in the line ministries level. And we could provided such environment in their data units, so that they should provide the international definitions and standard, especially for the disease data. And we are also trying to make them on board when any international standard definitions are being available with us and shared from the international and regional communities. We also try to sit together formally and informally, and we communicate with each with other for whether any issues raised. So in future, we are trying to get a good ecosystem, data ecosystem in Bangladesh National Statistical System, especially with the line ministries. If the national qualification framework is on board, then we are expecting that the national statistical system will be more strengthened, and then line ministries will work more effectively to make the data or ensure the data literacy to the policymakers, including the other users, and they will also start to make the initiatives to provide the clear guidance to use of their own data, which are being published from the different administrative sources. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alamgir. This is good because I see what you are mentioning is that, look, I mean, the coordination is a big issue, you know, that the line ministries must coordinate and work in harmonization with the National Statistical Office. Not only that, you also highlighted the need for a good quality assurance framework, which can then produce the data with high quality aspects, which can be then used by the policy makers. So I do see there is a bit of a common narrative emerging here between, like, what at least with Vietnam and Bangladesh, that a lot of focus is on the production side. But let's also listen from Bangladesh what they think. What are the possible solutions, or what changes would you like to see happen in Vietnam in this area? So over to Vietnam. Please go ahead.
Yes. As we know, we are developing the Vietnam's statistical development strategy for the period of 2130 and vision to 45. So we are really expecting some trends in the near future. The first, in future, we'll like to enhance the role of the General Statistics Office of Vietnam as the central statistics agency in data sharing to establish a national data warehouse for connecting the data from ministries for providing data in a better manner. The second, we aim at promulgate the legal provisions for microdata access as well as data distribution to ensure that the data user can access the microdata for research purposes and understand the standard methodologies, processes, as well as procedure for producing data. And finally, we are using the digital meanings and technologies to providing data in a more effective, costly, and timely manner. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So thank you all for your intervention here, and I would like to kind of see the common threads between all three panel members here, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. What we can see already is that there are mainly three big insights we have seen, three common threads. One is that the data literacy or statistical literacy is not only about consuming the data. It is also about being aware about the responsibility that comes with the producing the data, as well as advocacy or advocating for it. So the broader definition of data literacy must include not only consumption, but also production and being partner in the entire data life cycle, starting from understanding the context in which the data is required, the data planning aspects, that is, what is my demand for data, what is my supply for data, the data production, like, you know, a good quality data, but also interpretation, like through different kind of visualization and digital tools. And finally, the use of data. So that's the entire data life cycle from planning, production, interpretation, and use that the data literacy kind of can contribute to. The second big point is that it's not only individual data literacy here, that is, if a citizen can understand, interpret, and use the data for decision making, but it ranges from individual to organization, and finally to a system level thing. So the data literacy is not limited to individuals' understanding of data, but also organizational understanding of data, like civil society organization, for example, or line ministries example, or even parliamentarians' understanding as an organization. But also it is a system-wide phenomena, as data ecosystem phrasing has portrayed or highlighted. Finally, the third takeaway that I see is about the challenges of measurement of data literacy. That how do you target your data literacy intervention? Who are going to be the target audience, and how it needs to be measured? We saw the example from Nepal, how the user satisfaction survey plays that role in that context. In terms of measurement, I would just like to highlight that in Paris 21, we have done a research on how do you assess use of statistics in policy making by looking at use of statistics related terms in policy documents in many countries. And that gives a fairly good proxy for understanding if in national development plans or poverty reduction strategies, data or statistics is referred in terms of showing that they have been consulted to do this kind of policy making. So I'll now turn over to Jan Smit from ESCAP, and maybe he can do a bit of a summary and give us a way forward.
Thank you, Rajiv, and hello to everyone on the call. The data and statistical literacy issues raised by the colleagues from Bangladesh, Nepal, and Vietnam all relate to commitment, age, and the declaration to navigate policy with data to leave no one behind, which is advocacy for the expanded use of official statistics for evidence-based policymaking and transparent governance. To achieve this commitment, we need, on the one hand, to ensure that policymakers and those holding governments to account understand the official statistics that are being produced. On the other hand, we need to make sure that official statistics reflect the needs of policymakers and other key user groups. Continuous user-producer dialogue is therefore critical for maximizing the value of official statistics. The project funded by the Republic of Korea that I mentioned last week during my presentation on the available technical assistance at ESCAP is all about enhancing user-producer dialogue. Under this project, ESCAP is able to work closely with national experts from selected line ministries, planning organizations, and national statistical offices to review selected policy documents, identify priority issues in population groups, and make recommendations on the one hand for enhancing policy results frameworks that are inclusive of all the priority issues in population groups, and on the other hand, comprehensive indicator frameworks that monitor inclusive policies. The ESCAP toolbox for the development of official statistics that I presented last week contains two tools that have user-producer dialogue at the front and center. The EPIC tool and the National Statistical System Review tool, whereas the focus of the EPIC tool is on the collective development by all stakeholders, including policymakers and national statisticians, of national sustainable development indicator sets. The NSS review tool focuses on the critical review of legal and institutional mechanisms vis-a-vis the 2030 agenda requirements and the United Nations fundamental principles of official statistics. You will recall from the session Tuesday last week that we heard about the experience with the EPIC tool in Samoa and with the NSS review tool in the Maldives. It became clear from these presentations that the application of these tools entails considerable effort from countries themselves. Other lessons include the need to conduct user-producer dialogues regularly, including for the programming of statistical activities, the need for engagement of all relevant stakeholders across different levels, and the need for strong political and policy level support so that the outcomes of dialogues actually get implemented. I leave it here in the interest of time. Rajiv, thank you. Back to you.
Thanks, Ian Smith, for explaining the role of user-producer dialogue in this discussion. In the chat, I also shared the measuring reference to statistics paper that was recently published. So maybe you can have a look there as well. So thank you so much, all my panel members. And now I hand over the floor to Gemma. Gemma, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Rajiv. And thank you very much to all three of our partners there, Elaine, Steve, Rajiv, as well as my colleagues, Arman, Jan and Chris from ESCAP. Well, what a wonderful, wonderful couple of hours. In fact, it's not only been a wonderful couple of hours today, but wonderful 3 hours last week on Monday and on Tuesday. This brings us to the sort of closing part of our regional workshop. I'd just like to lift us back up to say, well, what was the purpose of this workshop? And if you recall back to the opening session, what we're at the start of here is we have two regional frameworks in Asia Pacific devoted to improving and strengthening not only statistical officers, statistical production, but also very much focused on statistical systems. And what we've heard last week and again today are the importance of so many things: legislation, coordination, statistical councils, statistical literacy, modernisation programs, not only of our technologies, but modernising the production, the different parts of use of our systems, the establishment of things like data infrastructure and the Big Data and Analytics Centre, like we heard from Malaysia. And so many aspects of these strengthening capabilities really go to the heart of making sure that we as, not only we as statisticians, but our statistical officers remain relevant to our policymakers, attract really good funding, attract really good interest from our policymakers, and actually we just deliver on our mandates, which is to inform and encourage evidence-based policies and help our citizens understand the situation in our countries. We've started several new projects this year, kicking off in 2021. We have a 4-year project totally devoted to this area of strengthening statistical systems. And we have two 2-year projects, one with financial support, very, very well received financial support from our colleagues in China, as well as in Korea, the Republic of Korea. And we're trying to make best use of these technical systems that are available to you, not only through those projects, but through other projects that are available from ESCAP, but also the wider UN, ADB and Paris 21. So what we're going to do in terms of next steps now is take all the information that we've received today, last Tuesday, last Monday, as well as your written inputs. And we're going to collate them and try and better understand them and better try and better understand how best we can help you. So a big thank you for all your interventions. They really have been appreciated and very helpful today. We actually also found it very helpful getting your interventions verbally, like we have today, rather than through PowerPoints and pre-arranged presentations. I know this is quite difficult for everybody. It's quite difficult for myself even to speak without a PowerPoint. But I do think having you talk to us is really very helpful to really understand what is the issue. The four of us, ESCAP, UNECE, Asian Development Bank and Paris 21, we plan on meeting before the end of June, so in the next 2 weeks, to discuss your interventions, what we've heard from you, and to put together a bit of a plan about how best we can assist you. We expect to then get back to you in June, so fairly quickly, to get back to you in June. But as you heard from several speakers, and in particular Chris Ryan there in our Pacific office, this workshop has raised awareness of the different issues that you face and that your statistical systems face. But we now need to move into a bit of a deeper level of understanding of what is the best way we can help you with your issue. What is it that we need to get from you? This is a big commitment, as we heard from the Maldives, as we heard from Samoa. It is a commitment for us to work together, and particularly if we want to have impact. So we now need to move to this deeper level of understanding, and to make sure that you've got time to commit, we've got time to commit, we've got the resources and the people that can work with you, and that means that we will continue to be discussing with you what to do next. We will be bringing in not only the tools that we've talked about, like the EPIC tool, the NSS review tool, the ADAPT, the National SDG tracker, but all of those tools that we collated, I think we ended up about 26 or 27 different tools that are available, and that's just with these four partners. But we will be basically working with those and your feedback to try and bring together basically back a proposal to you in June. Next slide, thanks, Gordon. This 3-day workshop has actually been a bit of a first for all of us. It's certainly been a bit of a first for ESCAP in terms of this style of bringing together multiple projects, bringing together the partners, doing this more dynamic discussion, interactive discussion style workshop. And we are very conscious that we've also sort of been sending you emails like with 24 hours notice to say, can you please intervene here today? So to help assess whether you thought this style of workshop was effective for you, whether you liked it, whether you'd like us to keep working like this way, we will send this evaluation survey around again, but I would really encourage to get your feedback and to hear from you whether this style of work worked. Next, please, Goy. It's been again, to you all, and I've got our four partners there, ADB, Paris 21, ECE and ESCAP. We brought this team of partners together because we have really quite a lot of expertise and a commitment to really focus on the foundational changes and foundational improvements to statistical systems. And we feel that if we really make impact on areas like legislation, institutional mechanisms, guidelines to support things like data sharing, for data integration, policy and data integration, then those sort of national statistical system reviews, then we think that they will have a real multiplier effect, not only in this particular area that we might be interested, like civil registration or environment statistics or disaster statistics, but in other areas, other sectoral areas of your work. And finally, just again, last slide here, Goy, I would just like to share with you, this is a bit fuzzy in spots, but this was the photo that we took on day one. And you'll see that we had not only the plenary session, but the 4 breakout groups on day one. and the contribution that you all made. So before we all leave in the next minute or two, could I please just invite you all to again turn on your video or your video, and I'll ask one of the team, Goy or Guy, if you could step us through a bit of a closing photo, that would be really great. Goy, are you able to assist with that? Let me invite everybody to turn on their video. Let's see if we can just get everybody to have a bit of a farewell photo. It's been a wonderful 3 days. Goy, do you want to take over and?
Yes, I'm changing to the last screen and see how it will look. Okay. Okay, we're getting more people, more and more. Yes, great. Okay, more people coming, turning on the microphone. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I see one. Karma, your camera is still off, but we can see you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, there you are. Okay. Ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, hang on. Give me another shot. Okay. One more time. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Goy. Let me just ask, Elaine or Steve or Rajiv, do you want to make any closing remarks? Sorry, I'm just putting you on the spot again.
Thanks, Gemma, for inviting us. This is good. It was really a good learning session for all of us to understand what country actually needs and wants. I mean, it was really a good experience. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Rajiv. Okay.
I'd like to add my thanks to the UN ESCAP colleagues. Thank you so much for all your organizational efforts. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Elaine.
Yes, and same for me. It's been a really enjoyable session today, and thanks to everybody who's contributed and to ESCAP for organising this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I really do appreciate we've taken up 3 hours of your time, and I hope you have found it beneficial as well, and have really learned from your colleagues and sharing experiences across the region. It's so vital. We hear that this is the #1 thing that everybody enjoys, hearing what other national stats officers are doing. So thank you so much for staying with us out there in the Pacific. I know it's late, and thank you for joining us early in the morning in North Central Asia. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.